Anime release schedules are completely broken, and somehow, they just keep getting worse. I'm not talking about shows that take forever to come out or wait years for a new season. I mean anime that were actively releasing, sometimes even fully in production, and still somehow managed to completely botch their schedule. Just a quick warning before I dive in, this isn't about blaming overworked animators or staff. The quality of the anime itself isn't the problem here, and most of those mentioned in the video are actually really good. Don't go harassing anyone who works on these shows. This mess is all on the production committees and higher-ups calling the shots.
Looking at you, Netflix.
This is just one guy's stupid rant, and with that, let's get into it. Right now, we might be watching history repeat itself with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7, Steel Ball Run. And that's wild, because this is one of the most anticipated anime adaptations, not just in the JoJo series, but ever. After the butchered batch release of Part 6 Stone Ocean a few years ago, fans have been rightfully very worried. And since Steel Ball Run is also trapped in Netflix exclusivity jail, we might have to go through all of this. Again. The anime adaptation was first announced on April 12, 2025 during JoJo Day, which is the longest gap between animated parts so far. At Anime Expo that July, we got the main cast and a teaser trailer, and zero info on the release date. Looking back, that was already a red flag, but we had no idea just how bad it would be. The release date finally came months later in a livestream, March 19th, 2026. When the day finally arrived, Episode 1 was a masterpiece. Critics and fans alike instantly regarded it as one of the best episodes in all of JoJo so far, if not one of the best anime premieres ever. The hype was insane, everyone online was talking about it, and it was top 5 trending on Twitter. And then everything broke. The following week, Episode 2 was nowhere in sight. Netflix stayed radio silent. Until that weekend, when the worst possible news dropped. A teaser for the second stage, with a generic 2026 release date. Within minutes, a King Vonified Johnny Joestar started circulating online and went viral instantly. People spammed it under every Netflix post on every social media platform, just like an ancient curse. Honestly, I've seen his face more than my own parents this past week. And just as I'm recording this, Netflix revised Episode 2's release to fall 2026, confirming that Steel Ball Run will be releasing in cores weekly. But why so vague? That second stage is only about 6 episodes worth of manga material, and if I had to be optimistic, I think it's just core labeling, and that they'll probably cover stages 3 and 4 to reach 12 episodes. But either way, this mess is all down to a lack of communication. Had they just said Episode 1 was an early premiere, none of this hype and PR disaster would have ever happened. And honestly, why'd they release it so early in the first place? Why did they just release it later? Like, are they trying to kill the hype? Well, it is Netflix. Not their first rodeo with JoJo. So what went wrong with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean? The anime was officially announced in April 2021, with a December 1st release date. And that's when things went off the rails. Just days before the premiere, some kid pulled a "my uncle works at Nintendo," but it was actually true. The child of some random Netflix employee leaked that the first 12 episodes would drop all at once as a batch. Not my preferred release method, but I was willing to see where they'd go with it. Worst mistake ever! I got into JoJo right before Stone Ocean premiered, and by the time I caught up, I'd already been waiting almost a year for Batch 2. Batch 2 didn't help. It premiered 9 months later in September 2022, but before that, it took months just to announce it, and then even more months just to give a release date. The rest of the time? Radio silence. In hindsight, it might seem small compared to the Steel Ball Run mess, but JoJo fans went completely insane for years. Hype died, each batch dropped, people binged it in a few days, talked about it briefly, and then silence again. Like, that Batch 2 is especially painful, not only because of the wait, but because it covers the weakest section of Part 6. Like, the increasingly heavy CGI didn't help, and the animation was consistently worse than Golden Wind and even Diamond is Unbreakable at times. Batch 3 finally dropped 3 months later in December 2022. Critics loved it, but the hype was still dead. And that's really a shame, because the ending part of Part 6 is genuinely one of, if not my favorite sections in the entire JoJo series. The problem wasn't just Netflix being Netflix, famous for releasing shows in batches. It became a meme-worthy disaster, talked about constantly until Steel Ball Run came out. And one thing that JoJo fans are really good at is saying the same joke over and over for fucking years. And while JoJo isn't Netflix's only mistake, not every exclusive anime that comes out on it suffers this fate. Take Cyberpunk Edgerunners for example. 10 episodes, high quality animation, excellent story, released years after the game lost relevancy. It helped drastically revive interest and even the reputation of the game. It works so perfectly that it's still talked about today, and even has a second season coming out soon. After all that chaos, Stone Ocean still ended up being a fantastic JoJo part, but that's definitely not something you'd say about the next show. If you've been online in the past 6 months, you've probably heard about the disaster that was One Punch Man Season 3. Even though it was released weekly, this is such a peculiar case that it's worth mentioning anyway. If you missed it, Season 1 in 2015 was a once-in-a-decade phenomenon. Like, the best in the industry worked on it, and the animation was just absurdly good. When Season 2 finally came out in 2019, JC Staff replaced Madhouse, and well, people noticed. JC Staff, a studio that mostly does romance anime, turned jaw-dropping action into perfectly fine animation. It was still watchable, sure, but going from Season 1's holy shit to Season 2's meh hit One Punch Man's reputation hard. In hindsight though, Season 2 wasn't even that bad at all. Season 3, on the other hand, that was a fucking nightmare. Announced in 2022, eyebrows shot up when JC Staff was back. A trailer dropped showing one of Garo's fights, and for a moment things actually looked pretty good. Then, 3 years later, Season 3 finally premiered in October 2025. And somehow, it was even worse than Season 2. Exponentially worse. And it kept getting worse. The animation looked like a fucking slideshow, and this was for the best arc in the manga! Like, a manga already carried by its art and humor in the first place. Anyway, unsurprisingly, it was very poorly received. How did it get this bad with so much time to work on it, though? They didn't! Rumor has it, the staff only had 6 months to produce all 12 episodes. 6 months! After doing nothing for 3 years! They just announced it, with 0 work done. Like, after it finished airing, almost every single episode ranked among the worst rated TV episodes. Like, not just in anime, but for like any show ever. And now they're threatening to release a Season 3 Part 2 in 2027? No thanks. Honestly, I feel so bad for the animators. I'm sorry I ever criticized JC Staff. Attack on Titan the final season is a prime example of an anime that looks fine on paper, but becomes a scheduling nightmare in execution. Instead of splitting the post-time skip content into 2 proper seasons like they probably should have given how long the Marley arc is, Mappa just labeled everything as the final season. The problem? It was announced way too early. The manga wasn't even finished yet. So just like Wit Studio did with Season 3, Mappa split it into multiple parts across several years. Part 1 aired in December 2020, and Part 2 in January 2022. Seems reasonable so far, right? Yeah, and that's where it stops making sense. Because Part 3 is where things went completely off the rails. Attack on Titan, the final season, Part 3, the final chapters, Episode 1. Yes, that is the full fucking title. Dropped as a 1-hour special in March 2023. Then the final episode, Episode 2, released in November, as an even longer special. And look, I actually liked the ending way more than in the manga, even though nothing major was changed. But like, the schedule? Absolutely ridiculous. Why didn't they just make the specials into regular episodes or into a big movie? Oh wait. They did! Because here's the thing, after all that, they did turn the specials into several normal episodes, and then they also released a theatrical movie combining them. So we got a final season, split into parts, turned into specials, recut into episodes, and then packaged into a movie. The milking is insane. The weirdest part is that all this was adapting material that had already been finished in the manga for years at this point. Instead of a clean weekly release, we basically got multiple final seasons in everything but name. And don't get me wrong, like, the end product is phenomenal. The animation is incredible, the story hits hard, but the release schedule turned it into a waiting game the moment that Mappa took over. And that's not even mentioning the 4-year gap between seasons 1 and 2 back when Wit Studio had it. I watched and read all of Attack on Titan right after Part 2 came out, and I still had to wait almost 2 years just to see the ending. At a certain point, it becomes a cautionary tale. Even the best anime can't survive a schedule that makes people wait months, if not years, between major moments in a single season. Uzumaki might be one of the most painful modern examples. Back in 2019 at Crunchyroll Expo, an adaptation of the classic Junji Ito story was announced as a 4-episode miniseries. Sounds pretty simple, right? Wrong. During the COVID pandemic in March 2020, the director claimed that production wasn't affected at all. By June, storyboards were being posted online, and in July, the voice cast was announced. Things seemed to be moving pretty smoothly until Adult Swim reran the exact same teaser trailer again. And that was the first red flag. Sure enough, the anime was delayed from its planned 2020 release. Then came a full year of radio silence, until a second teaser dropped in June 2021. At that point, it was confirmed that the team had to restructure the anime from scratch due to the pandemic, pushing it again to October 2022. That date came and went, and it got delayed again. This time, indefinitely. At one point, director Jason DeMarco said it would release in late 2023, but that didn't happen either. After years of delays in production hell, Episode 1 finally released in September 2024, and after all that waiting, it was actually good. Critics praised its unique black and white style, perfectly capturing Junji Ito's artwork. It felt like we were finally getting a proper Junji Ito adaptation, and then Episode 2 came out. The animation quality immediately fell off, and stayed there for the remaining 3 episodes. After all those years, it genuinely felt like they blew all their budget on Episode 1, and then just gave up. How does that even happen? They had years. Unlike something like One Punch Man Season 3, this wasn't rushed. They had all the time in the world. At this point, you have to wonder, are all Junji Ito adaptations just cursed? Because Uzumaki proves that even incredible source material can't survive such a messy production cycle. Zom 100 is a newer example of a show that looks perfectly fine on paper, but was completely plagued, no pun intended, by production issues. It started airing weekly in mid-2023, but for some reason things went off the rails on just Episode 5. Episodes started getting delayed with random 2-week gaps, and then after Episode 9, it just stopped. Completely. There was a 3-month wait before Episode 10 finally dropped on Christmas 2023, and then just to make things even weirder, Episodes 11 and 12 released the very next day. What makes this even stranger is that Zom 100 is mostly episodic and comedic. You'd think that would make delays easier to handle, but somehow it made it even worse. I haven't even watched it, and I still remember some of the online discourse during the second half of the season. Nobody knew when the next episode was coming, and by the time it did, lots of people had just already checked out. And the irony here is unreal. The entire premise of Zom 100 is about an overworked office worker who hates his job so much that he's happier working through a zombie apocalypse. But meanwhile, the actual production of the show clearly overworked the hell. At this point, it really makes you wonder why it's not just standard practice to finish the season before it starts airing. Give studios reasonable deadlines, avoid these mid-season collapses, pay your animators fairly, and everyone wins. Both the fans and the people making the show. Hellsing Ultimate is legendary for its story, but its release schedule? Fucking brutal. The OVA series is only 10 episodes long, yet the gaps between them ranged from 1 year to several. The first episodes dropped in 2006, and fans had to wait all the way until 2012 for the finale. This format was intentional too. The goal was to avoid the time constraints of a traditional TV anime, fully adapt the manga, and give the staff more creative freedom. And to be fair, it worked. This wasn't even the first Hellsing adaptation either. The 2001 version went in a completely different direction. So this was basically Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood before that was even a thing. But the trade-off was insane. We're talking 1 or 2 episodes per year. And on top of that, the series kept switching studios. Satellite for episodes 1 to 4, Madhouse for 5 to 7, and Graphinica for the final stretch. Watching this as it came out must have felt like checking on a show that only existed once a year. This is the same release schedule as the Made in Abyss manga. Despite all this, the final product is great, but the momentum just completely dead. Especially in the late 2000s when anime wasn't nearly as mainstream as it is now. This is one of the rare cases where a terrible release schedule actually worked out in the end. But still, I think most people would have preferred they just worked on it longer behind the scenes and released the episodes closer together. Cause, yeah, the animation is incredible and the episodes are double length, but waiting 6 years for 10 episodes is insane. To put that into perspective, that's the number of years since the COVID pandemic started. We end off with Fate Strange Fake, an absolute wildcard. This being started as an April Fool's joke back in 2008, got officially picked up as a light novel in 2015, and like every other Fate project, it eventually got an anime announcement in September 2022. So far, seems pretty normal. Then the release schedule happened. The first episode, a prologue titled Whispers of Dawn, released in July 2023 after a 7-month delay. It adapted most of the first volume and basically acted as a full-length intro to the series. Then at Anime Expo 2023, the full anime was announced, and everything seemed to be on track. The series was intended to start airing in December 2024, or at least, that's what we thought. Because right after the first episode dropped, the rest of the season, episodes 2 through 13, got delayed all the way to January 2026. So, let me get this straight. They dropped one episode, and then disappeared for over a year. And the craziest part, they did it twice. Both gaps were over a year long. Can you imagine your favorite anime doing that? Just dropping one episode and vanishing into the void? Honestly, after learning this, I'll never complain as a JoJo fan ever again. So there you have it, some of the worst anime release schedules in recent memory. From Stone Ocean's batches, the One Punch Man's rushed disaster, the Steel Ball Run's single episode drop, and Fate Strange Fake dragging out episodes for over a year, it's clear that bad timing, production decisions, and circumstances can seriously ruin even best stories. That said, not every schedule is a nightmare. Shows like Bleach Thousand Year Blood War prove that consistent weekly releases, even in multiple cores, even after a 10-year hiatus, can still maintain hype, keep momentum rolling, and keep fans glued to every episode. It shows that with clear communication, good working conditions, and reasonable deadlines, anime can deliver the best experience for both the creators and viewers. Anime release schedules may never be perfect, but at least now we know what works, what to avoid, and how the rare cases of chaos can actually turn out alright in the end.